Hi guys, best regards from Ingolstadt. I have heard that you entered the Kamel GT Championship this year in the good old GTO car, so I wish you best of luck and a lot of success.
Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
Charlotte Motor Speedway did its usual deed of giving us one of the most unpredictable races of the season. And while drivers such as Mukanos, who celebrated his first ever GTP win, might still be riding that adrenaline high, it's time to buckle down and focus on your strategy chops. That's right, it's our first endurance round. Who will find an edge today here at Watkins Glen? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Watkins Glen is another circuit in which these old IMSA cars feel right at home. To get an idea of why there's such a match made in heaven, let's hop on board our track guide. Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time. It's all fit to host the first of the virtual IndyCar series here, and it's no wonder. It is a classic, Adam, and it continues to bring drivers back time after time.
Yeah, it definitely does, Joe. Watkins Glen is one of America's most striking road courses, but the scenery will be ripping by for these drivers today. As per Kamel tradition, the classic boot layout is being used today, skipping the dreaded bus stop chicane in favor of a straight shot into the carousel before taking the left-hand turn down into the boot. If these drivers survive their first trip to the uphill S's, always a problem here on iRacing, the Audis will struggle to keep to the apexes with a medium speed, corner-filled circuit, and will be happily drafting one another down the long straight after the S's and into the carousel. Look for many Audi drivers to try and save fuel behind each other as the runs wear on. The Nissans will struggle through the boot as the drastic elevation changes will threaten to upset the grip of the rear tires into the road, leading to torque-induced wheel spin. Multi-class is the same as ever. Audis drifting wide of the apexes and Nissans slow out of the tight corners. Look for the Nissans to take tires during their pit stops today, and the Audis not to, as it would add to their stop times. Watkins Glen, as always, is a great place for an endurance battle, Joe.
That's no doubt about that. It's hosted quite a few endurance rounds itself. Now, we of course have championships on the line, and let's start out with the prototypes. Up at the top of them, it is now Fabian Gerber ahead of Justin Albrecht, who's actually tied in that second spot with Michael Houghton. Now, what about Tobias Gerber? Both the Gerber brothers in the top 5 and only 16 points apart. And then, of course, Laust Olsen. I feel like we're getting to be a broken record, but week after week, he's rifling off those clean finishes, and he still holds on to the top 5. Now, there is a GTO championship for the Audis, so why don't we hop over there too?
Yeah, Joe, speaking of week after week, showing up for all the races is definitely what's going to be helpful to leading the championship, at least in these early stages before we count drop weeks. Juco Lascala and Reed Miller, both with 3 races in the bag, are currently leading the points. Reed Miller only 4 points behind Juco Lascala. And then we have Dennis Neidhart, our 2-time winner this season, who has shown up for 2 of the races, with Phil Blake also showing up for 2 in 4th place behind him. And then Hideki Koivisto, another driver we don't talk about a lot in the GTOs, but he's also very consistent and shows up for every race. He's got 3 in the bag and is in 5th right now.
Now, if you've never watched this series before, again, you're in for a good show today, but let's run you down on the race details. Apologies for a bit of a error in my script. It is round 4, not round 3 that we're running today. And as I did mention, it is their endurance round. So 60 minutes that they'll be racing with open setups on the car. Now, this is a bit of a different series compared to most on iRacing, because they do freely share their setups with this open setup. So you tend to see a lot of them tips being shared among drivers, and make sure that everybody is on the same level so that they can all enjoy this car. But they have no free repair at this level of racing. If you get damage, well, you got to come in for that pit stop and get some of it repaired as you get your fuel and potentially tires. They also have an incident limit. They'll have a stop and go penalty at 17 incidents on track, and 25 will mean you will disappear right in a poof of smoke. Well, I guess not necessarily smoke, hopefully not, but you will be removed immediately from the track. Qualifying is underway, but it's so long to get around here in the GTOs. They're only just now putting times in, as we've already got the first lap in from most of the GTPs. Justin Albrecht has about a half-second gap over Fabian Gerber.
Yeah, the GTOs really do take a long time to get around here. Already half the qualifying is over, so they're going to have to get out there and really crank out those laps to try and get that second time in. I know that some guys were talking about their load times taking a little bit longer after this last iRacing update, so some of them were worried about getting times in. But it looks like most of our field, at least 2/3 of it, have times in right now. Like you said, Justin Albrecht leading Gerber in the GTPs, and Dennis Neidhart leading our current points leader, Juco Lascala, in the GTOs, with Rob Olnick just putting in a time faster than Dennis, taking that pole away.
So it looks like it is going to be very tight at the top of the GTOs unless things change on that second lap. But in the meantime, getting the second lap in on our GTPs, Albrecht still leads Mukanos, but Albrecht has yet to do his second one across the line. Oh, and he's not going to make it because he wrecks right out of the final corner. Wow.
Fabian Gerber, yeah, he comes across and he only comes home in the 4th position, so Nick Mukanos currently holding second in the GTPs, but that spin from Justin Albrecht does open the door a little bit for anyone else who might be on a flyer to really take that position. Dennis Neidhart right now, last week's winner, in 3rd position, and he's got an opportunity to take that the pole away from Phil Lake, who currently leads it.
So we're watching to see what Neidhart can do here with that second to make up. Yeah, I was a little off the apex there.
Yeah, that's going to lose about half a second for him there through the apex, so it's unlikely that he's about to take this pole away unless he was really fast on the rest of the course. Let's see what his time is.
Also watching Lascala, who's been quick so far this season. On his second lap, he doesn't improve. Makula doesn't. Kivipuro does. He goes up to 8th. Neidhart, he's up to 2nd, but he is 2/10 shy of Phil Lake, who is still coming around for his second lap.
Taking a look at Rob Olenek as he comes around the final corner now. He's got a 143.9 in the books. He's going to cross the line slower this time, only by about 7/100ths of a second rather.
We could have a spoiler in Reed Miller, too. Don't forget, he was looking good at the end of last season. The 44.3 is a ways down, but again, I wouldn't put anything past him. Let's see what he's got. 44 flat, 3/10 quicker. That's not going to be pole, but it is going to be 5th place for him.
Mr. Consistency once again. Here comes Phil Lake on his final lap. Here he comes around. He has a 1:43.6. He's already got pole, and there's not many GTOs out there to challenge him, so he can really string it all out here on this final lap. He's looking to try and improve that time, and he does not manage to.
So what about Lanini? Let's see, is this his 2nd lap, I believe?
Ooh. Spinning a little bit, almost spinning the car around coming out of the final corner. That's going to douse his time down by about 3 seconds, so it looks like he struggled on that final lap.
40 seconds left to go. Mancini, rather. Looks like he's going to try and get one in. Hideki Koivisto has both of his laps. And then Pablo Rangel is not going to get a time in. So I think the only one left to get at least a time in is Marco Mancini in the number 29. So he comes around. He hasn't even set a first lap, so it's going to be important that he get one clean. He's just going to squeak across with about 10 seconds left to go. It's going to be a 1:46.7. That's going to be good enough for 17th in the field. But that is our field for the race. Nobody else is able to set a time for today. Big one out here today, but it's a long track, so they should have space. Let's start off with our prototype grid. Justin Albrecht on the pole. Nick Mucanos coming off that win. Well, looks like he's hungry for another. He's going to be on the front row. Michael Houghton will be starting in 3rd. And then how about this? The Gerber brothers back-to-back, but not on the same row. Fabian Gerber on the outside of 2. Inside of 3 is going to be Tobias Gerber. Martin Krejcik, excellent qualifying for him. Put himself into 6th place with Kitty Ingstrom in 7th. Laus Olsen, also pretty good for him. 8th place up there. Gabriel Lanini, I saw his issues in quali. He'll be down in 9th with Fabian Jungbluth rounding out your top 10. Patrick Martin starts 11th today. Then you got Pablo Suarez in the 12th position. Radar Anderson will be unlucky P13, and Aitor Cynthia will be in the next on the outside in 14th. Then in the next row, you've got Stephen Workup in 15th and Stephen Jones in 16th. So a pair of Stevens there. Lisa Stephanie Nobis in 17th will be followed by John Keefe to her outside, and Johnny Bell starts 19th today. Jeremy Swain with 20th. Jerry Forkold in 21st and Ryan Lang in 22nd. Isaac Snyder starts 23rd. Last 2 cars with times in the GTPs are Nicholas Weatherby in 24th and Andre Juteau in 25th. Carlos Fonseca, Roy Pruitt, and Bradley Linnell will start behind them and did not set times.
Philip Blake's going to take the pole in the GTO class with Dennis Neidhart alongside him. Rob Olenik's going to start off in 3rd position. A great qualifying for him, with Ernesto Romero starting off in 4th, his best qualifying of the season so far. Reed Miller starts off in 5th position, with Ove Trangarade starting off in 6th alongside him, with Juko Lascala starting off 7th, and Mika Krivopuro starting off in the 8th position. Andrea Albertinelli in the 9th position with Jake Johansson in the 10th position. Bryce Calusa is going to start off 11th with Fabio Lotti in 12th. Hideki Koivisto 13th. 14th is Jim McGill. Then we have Dominic Bureau, Miguel Alcalde, Marco Mancini, Henry Maikula, Michael Haynes, Franco Scurry, Pablo Rangel, and Giulio Forcola rounding out your grid.
See them take it off for the rolling start here behind the Porsche as they get going. Full pace lap here around Watkins Glen. And one thing I noticed, it seemed like a lot of drivers were having trouble out of that final corner, most notably the GTPs. I saw a number of them spin out of there. And it's sort of cool conditions, not extremely cool conditions here, Adam, but is that going to be an issue for our cars today? Because that's not something we usually talk about. Usually it's hot weather that we are concerned with.
Well, the cool conditions won't cause a problem for the GTPs after a couple of laps. Their tires will get up to temperature, and the GTOs have the 4-wheel drive, so they will be fine. But it's these early laps, it's the first and second laps for these GTPs, where they're going to have to be very careful coming out of those slow corners, and especially if they start hitting some curbs. Then you really run the risk of unseating those rear tires from the pavement, and these GTPs, with their turbocharged engines, can really get those rear tires spinning if they pick up in the air.
Now here's the other one, hopefully not putting you too much on the spot here, is we usually talk about draft battles at this track, but in the sense of just trying to time when you want to pass. This time, we've got pit stops involved. Is it worth trying to fuel save a bit if you get a tow from somebody, or is that not something you could see being viable in this series?
In the GTPs, I don't see it being viable. The tow that you get is negligible for these drivers unless you're behind someone who has a significant amount of downforce, and most of the GTP drivers run a low downforce setup. The GTOs, on the other hand, that is entirely a viable strategy for them, and you're definitely going to see it today from our top 5 at least. You're going to see quite a few of them deciding to save fuel, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Phil Lake dropping from that lead position back in behind Dennis Neidhart to save fuel during this first stint.
You can see they're giving a little bit of space here between our two classes, and hopefully we won't have issues between them because we've got that narrow run up the S's, and if the prototypes run into trouble, it could quickly become a very big accident, and the poor GTOs have to tiptoe their way through the wreckage. So as we already come through the boots, it is going to be Justin Albrecht who has control with Nick Mukanos next to him. Nick certainly seemed pretty darn happy about that win at Charlotte. Let's see if he can make it back-to-back for his first 2 victories in the prototypes here. It's going to be hard to beat Justin because he has been on a tear in the first 2 races this season before he didn't show up at round 3 at Charlotte. Now back onto the main course, and there is a good sense of just how big this field is. They're still coming around that corner in the background. Finally, we get the last car out of it, as now they back up off the pace car. Justin giving himself some space to try and get a good launch here off the final corner. Porsche pace car is in, and Justin is off like a shot. Green flag is out immediately on the loud pedal. Good jump from Mukanos to keep himself in second place. Gerber around the outside of Houghton, seeing if he can get third away. And they're going to be side by side through that first corner. So far, so good for everyone behind. Let's head to the GTOs.
Blake got a really good start with Dennis Neidhart in second place. Ernesto Romero looks like he's dropped quite a few positions back.
Like this also so far is good in the GTOs, coming through the 90, no problems through the S's and the prototypes. So that is a good sign. It's a long race and there's a lot to go. Oh, we do have an accident, and it's Fabian Gerber, championship leader, hard into the wall. He got hit in the side by Houghton. We'll get back to it in a bit, but it slowed him up dramatically into the middle of the pack.
Yeah, this could cause a problem for the GTOs as they come up upon that, but look at how tight everyone's getting here in the GTPs as well, and the GTO battles tend to string out, and we're going to see this be the case. The GTOs tend to be a little bit more slower pace as they go through these first couple of sectors. Once they start to spool up their tires and their engines, we'll see them start to pass one another.
Yeah, the front of the field in the GTPs is just all strung out. Really, it starts to get tight once you get back to Martin Krajcik. It's a train of cars. You've got Lanini in there, Engstrom, Olsen, Jungbluth, Martin, side-by-side action behind them as Suarez is overtaken by Gerber. Looks like he's going to get at least one spot back from his early woes.
These GTPs are going to be fighting tooth and nail early on because track position around here is going to be a very important thing for them. It's going to be extremely dangerous for them to try and make any passes, but they're going to have to do it because if they don't make passes here, the track is so narrow and the drafting is not so much in effect for them that they're going to lose a lot of position.
Big accident in the prototypes. It looks like we've got Stephen Jones involved in it, Nobis, and John Keith. Now, did Keith kick this off? Let's see. Oh, yes, he did. Oh, no. He got into the back of Lisa, turned her around, and then unfortunately he got plowed into big time by, looks like, Jeremy Swain.
You have the Audi GTOs going on to the back straight here. This is the first opportunity really for a full-on draft battle. We're seeing Rob Olenek. He has quite a run on Dennis Neidhart. He's actually going to look to the outside, and also Neidhart's looking to the outside of Phil Lake. They're going to try and go 3 wide to the carousel. Neidhart backs out of it just a little bit, but look at this, Phil Lake. He's doing exactly what I said. He's just taking it easy, letting these guys pass him. He knows that he can save fuel behind him.
lap 2 in a 60-minute race, and they go 3 wide for the lead at the end of the fastest part of the circuit. They're still 2 wide here for second place. Dennis Neidhart and Phil Lake trying to sort it out, but I think Neidhart has got it. He's moved himself up into second now. This definitely helped Rob Oldenek pull a little bit of a gap, but I don't think that's going to allow him to scamper away.
Yeah, Ernesto Romero also in that 4th position is now getting passed on the inside by Ove Trangarade, who actually decides to back out of it. But Phil Lake losing 2 positions, I don't think he's going to be that concerned about that, Joe. It's a long way to go here, and there's some fuel saving to be had behind these two big blocky cars ahead of him.
In the background, that was Reed Miller and Yuko Lascala, who were going side by side. Reed almost lost it coming off of turn 9, managed to just grab the car. This is, of course, put him under pressure from Kivipuro, who was right in behind him in 8th.
Yeah, Reed Miller has lost 2 positions since the start of this race, dropping back to that 7th position, so not a great start for him, and he lost those before the final corner, so not getting a good start for him at all. But as we start to get back into the S's, things are going to get interesting for that lead battle, because it looks like Dennis wants the lead.
I have no doubt that the Anvil is going to try and hammer his way back to the front as Dennis Neidhart stalks Rob Oldenek up through the S's, and now at the top of the hill. They've started to drop Phil Lake behind them, so he's not going to be a factor in this. He closes in, but he lifts. Dennis Neidhart elects not to make the pass here. Now, we've also had Fabian Gerber come in for a stop. I know the pit window is pretty wide. Is he able to make it to the end from here, or is he on a 2-stopper now?
This is definitely due to damage, Joe. He had some significant right side damage to his car, so he's coming in for damage repairs. So he definitely he can't make it to the end from here. It's way too early, Joe.
In fact, while we're on that topic, let's look at the replay with Houghton making that contact on lap 1. Hopefully Houghton didn't get too much damage from it as well. This seems like just close racing. We're looking for the number 9 car here that we want to see. Let's see. As we try to pull it up 1 second. We'll get this on screen. Here we go. This is Houghton now just taking the checkered flag. It happens through the carousel that they make side-by-side contact. See them racing hard already in the first few corners. And eventually Houghton gets the edge as they come up through the S's. I'm guessing that the slipstream is going to allow Gerber to get back with him. There's so much to watch. I didn't quite get to see until I just ducked over and saw Houghton take a slam. Yeah, you can see he comes up to the outside. Defensive move there from Houghton. Side by side. A little bit of ghost contact, so wouldn't really put that one on Michael. Oh, but that was a hard hit into the tires.
And it looks like HR Sentes Guindo has spun out, and he's out of this race now. And also, while we've been in that replay, Justin Albrecht has lost the lead. He's dropped back to 3rd, and this was not due to a wreck. It was just an almost self-spin that got him passed by Nicholas McConnors and Michael Houghton. Yeah,
that was down into the toe of the boot about 60 seconds ago if we want to see the replay on this. It's had to have been a scary moment. He got awful close to the barrier. We're looking for the number 1 machine. There it is, right there. Oh, my goodness. He just caught it before it hit that powder blue wall.
Yeah, and if he would have hit it at all, that would have definitely negatively impacted his race. He's trying to catch up to Michael Houghton as we speak, but this kind of a spin, those usually end in tears, and he managed to save it.
This also means that the weight of the Gerber pace is now on Tobias, who's side by side with Martin Krajcik, and he's going to do well with it. So he moves to 5th, or 4th place, actually, I should say, ahead of Martin. Not quite in the hunt for the win right now. He's about 5 seconds back, but a lot can happen in this race. Let's see if maybe he could do his brother proud here.
Martin Krajcik actually missed the apex a little bit, which gave an advantage to Kitty Ingstrom as they went through there, but Kitty unable to capitalize on it, so he's got to stay behind Martin for now in the 6th position.
Ooh, back up to the leaders in the GTO. Olenek still leads Neidhart, but they're starting to reel in Phil Lake a little bit. They've dropped Ove Trangarade, who sits in 4th. Here comes the hammer, and he's down to the inside. No defensive move from the number 7 of Rob Olenek. Just lets him through, starts to come back a little bit in the braking, can't duck it down to the apex. The four-wheel drive and the banking helps him out a little bit so he doesn't lose too much time. So nice smooth pass and a swap for the lead up in the Audis.
And we need to go to second place in the GTPs because Michael Houghton's making a pass on, Justin Albrecht's making a pass on Michael Houghton for that second position, trying to gain back that time he lost. He's going to try and go around the outside here through the carousel. This definitely can work in the GTPs. Ooh, he comes across, almost cuts off the nose of Michael Houghton and has to back out of it a little bit. This gives an opportunity for Houghton to come back. Houghton's going to lift off and let him through.
Doesn't want a repeat of what happened with Fabian. So Albrecht now has 1.5 seconds to make up to get up to Mucanos. Now might be the best time because you can see they've caught the tail end of the GTOs and they're having to weave their way through. Time can be won or lost in this segment, especially as it thickens up in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, this could be very, very dangerous for these guys, especially here at Watkins Glen. These Audis could be very unpredictable, especially at the back of the field. These drivers who are not used to driving these cars. So these Audis taking the outside line here, to be honest, it's not something I would do if I was driving the GTO because the Audi just tends to fall off of those corners. You just want to race your line and race exactly what you would in any sort of normal situation and let these GTPs navigate past you on their own.
Albrecht already made up a full second just in those few corners as he's now 5/10 behind. They come down into the first corner and they're going to come into the S's. This is where I worry about traffic between these two makes of cars.
This is definitely going to hold up Nick Mucanos, Joe. Jim McGill's going to get right on him at the wrong spot. There's no way to get by here except for the outside, so he has to lift a little bit. That gives Justin Albrecht a great push of momentum onto this straight. He's going to take the inside.
A mistake 2 laps ago gets repaid as he finds his way back to the lead, but is Mucanos going to fight him? The answer is no. They come into the carousel. Albrecht retakes the lead in the top 3 all together.
One other interesting battle going on is Tobias Gerber. He's lost a couple of positions on this lap and is still getting passed by Laus Olsen right now. Laus actually decides to back out of it, but Tobias lost positions to Kitty Engstrom and Gabriel Lanini in that corner.
Commentator's curse for Tobias. I was talking about how good he was doing up to 4th and already down to 7th. So Lanini by as we watch Olsen. We've given this nickname to a few people, but I think this guy deserves it. Laus Olsen, Mr. Consistency. Up next in front of them is, that's Jim McGill that they're going by, who we saw. Oh, and we got a car off. That is Bradley Linnell.
Yeah, Bradley Linnell doing it. He just had his own self-spin. We've seen a couple of these in the GTPs we haven't really mentioned, but yeah, quite a few of these drivers are struggling with this track right now. It's a difficult track to run in these classic cars.
And note, we don't need to go there for our viewers to jot down. Fabian Gerber back out on track, 1:16 behind our leader. Keep track of that. We'll come back to him later, see where he can go. He's up to 24th right now on his return to the circuit. Let's go to second place in the GTOs because Rob Olenek and Phil Lake are now fighting for that second place. Neidhart's gotten by. He's pulled away a little bit.
Yeah, Neidhart all had it up to about a second before getting into some traffic of their own. So things are getting interesting for the GTO drivers right now, especially because Phil Lake doesn't want to see Dennis Neidhart get away completely. So he's going to have to make this pass on Rob Olenek and try and claw his way back up to Dennis Neidhart. He does want to be passive in this race, but not to the point where he lets the leader get away.
Bad news for Robbo and Phil is that they have the lead GTP traffic coming up. And in the past, traditionally, that's split up the battles in these GTOs. So he'll have to hustle and try to get to the back of him as Olenek has to weave out of the way of Justin Albrecht.
Yeah, Phil Lake clobbered the inside curb there going through that corner. That's going to lose him a lot of time. But Rob O catching up to the back of Dennis Neidhart here. He might have the draft opportunity, but here comes Justin Albrecht to try and split up this battle. Phil Lake's going to try and take his normal line, but gets pushed a little bit wide by Michael Houghton going by. He's now a full second off of the Audi GTOs. He's in trouble.
We had a problem with Warcup and Engstrom, but we don't need to go back to it right now. I want to stick with our leaders in case anything erupts, but it looks like self-spins for those two. ES is yet again. Neidhart, our leader, holding up Mukanos just a little bit. And Houghton, spying second place, has the slipstream as they come up onto the backstretch. He's got a fantastic run, and he's going to look to the inside for just a moment, but not a serious attempt, as he has a big lift.
Yeah, a big lift from him, so Michael Houghton looking like that he's not trying to get by Nick Mukanos. Maybe he thinks Mukanos is actually faster on pace, so that's definitely going to be something to watch here. Maybe Houghton trying to do a little bit of fuel saving, but it's going to be negligible in the GTP.
So they've gone through the proverbial gauntlet once now, and they've passed all the GTOs, but they're going to come up again a second time soon enough. We saw how quickly. We're only on lap 9 to get through the field.
If we could get a replay of Ryan Lang, Stephen Workup, and Stephen Jones, they just went 3 right on the straightaway just now.
Oh, no!
And there's more contact between them. That was Stephen Workup.
Yeah, it was Kalusa who got hit in behind by in the Audis by the GTP cars. He's off on the outside of the chute. We're going to watch it from above. There's a 3-wide moment, and just unfortunately, Weatherby was a little bit too eager. He's going to be on the car on the outside as they come into the chute. He makes the contact, and there's no words for it. He just should have got on the binder sooner.
Yeah, he didn't expect the Audi GTO to go that wide. He thought he was going to be able to go around the outside of him, and that's an optimistic decision in that scenario. But it's not something I can necessarily blame them for. They go 3 wide again as they go into the first corner of the booth. This is crazy racing between these guys.
Well, they were 3 wide down in the toe, and here's we come back live. It's the battle just continues. Laust Olsen taking an early stop, curiously. This should be within the pit window, but I don't think this is scheduled. Oh man, I'm gonna have to look and see if we can find what happened to him.
That is some major front end damage. I'm guessing that's coming off of the back of a GTO.
A long time ago. It was down into turn 1 of the previous lap. He spun it on his own and got hit by Fabio Iati in the 12. So I don't think we can get a replay on this one. But that is a real shame, because that was an error of his own doing in this case for a driver we were just lauding for his consistency.
Oh boy, look at this. This is an interesting moment here. We had quite a few drivers get held up. I believe that was Phil Lake getting held up and Ove Trangrade as well. So now we have a big hold up here with Ove Trangrade, Rob Olenek, and Phil Lake. Juco Lascala now getting into it. Ernesto Romero as well. So something held up Phil Lake right there. He's 4.5 seconds behind Dennis Neidhart.
Robbo's not having a fun time either. As I was looking at Radar Anderson, so a lot of names and vowels coming in here. Ernesto Romero, look at this. Here's a name we haven't talked about a lot. He's come up into 6th and has now got himself in the mix along with Reed Miller.
And what happened there, Joe, was Rob Olenek ended up getting into Patrick Martin, which ended up holding up all of these guys. So as we're watching Ernesto Romero try and make an inside move, this was all caused due to a lapping GTP.
Slow GTP down at the bottom. That is Bradley just trying to get back out on the track, and I think he's decided maybe it's better to pull it off as he takes an access road. Meanwhile, watching this battle between our GTO drivers for second place, Bill Lake up to that P2 spot, being chased now by Trangrade, Olenek, Lascala, Romero, and Miller. And I think Romero's going to be able to get to the inside. Lascala trying to defend from the long way around and use that banking, but I don't think there's quite enough grip there.
No, Ernesto Romero going to pull away with that position. And Lascala looking down to the inside there. He's not going to be able to get it done, but wow. Very close racing between these guys for these top 5 positions.
Romero just boarded up the doors to the house and wouldn't let anybody in as he comes through the toe of the boot, and they've got more traffic now. This is Ryan Lang trying to find a way through, and he's going to have to go 3 wide. He decides to sit patiently because Lascala with another attack on Romero as he gets to the inside of the heel. Once again, 2 wide battles through these hard corners. Finally, Romero gives it up and backs out.
Yeah, Romero doing that just to try and make sure that he didn't get into a bad situation with the GTP going through that really tight left-hander. It kind of crests away from you, so it's really hard to hold on to the traction in any car, much less the Audi GTO in that moment.
So as As we go back to second in the prototypes, I think Houghton and Mukanos had a close moment, but looks like Houghton decided to back out of it by the end of the backstretch. Still, he is keeping touch with Nick Mukanos, who has found himself lacking pace compared to Justin Albrecht. There is 4.2 seconds from P1 to P2.
Yeah, Albrecht is fast, and it's beautiful to watch him drive this track, but he seems to be a little bit mistake-prone this season. We've seen it in a couple of his races. So if Nicholas Mukanos can just keep it clean like he did at Charlotte, he might have an opportunity for another win here if something unfortunate happens to Albrecht.
Those drivers pushing William all the way out to the edge of the track, which can be scary around here with that grass. That isn't the most recent scan for this track, as they're lacking a lot of the paved runoff that you'd see in real life. So drivers win themselves pretty easily. Back to Romero, still in a nice little fight, but this time it's with Reed Miller on his tail.
Yeah, Reed Miller's still in that 7th position from his start, but he's catching Romero. Romero looks like he's struggling a little bit on those tires, which is really unfortunate. We still have 41 minutes left to go in this race, so he's going to be really hard-pressed to hold on to that car. He goes extremely wide. Reed Miller, though, this is not the opportunity to go around the outside. This next corner is really troublesome in the Audi GTO. So he backs off, tries to let Romero go wide to the corner. He almost does, but Reed clobbering that inside curb, unable to get the run.
Well, I mean, credit to Romero. He's not ambling through this race like a zombie in a mall. He's making sure and fending off when he can and attack when he can. But this has brought more traffic behind him. Isaac Snyder going to interrupt things briefly and actually give a little bit of a tow to Miller. But I don't think that's going to be enough. He decides it's better to get behind. A nice little train in 10th place. Remember we mentioned Ryan Lang earlier. Well, Stephen Warcup is with him, Jerry Forkold, and Pablo Suarez, a quartet down the backstretch.
Yeah, Jerry Forkold has some significant aero damage, which is slowing him up on these straights. You can see, actually, Stephen Warkup rather, Jerry Forkold is the black car behind him trying to catch him into that position. So Stephen Warkup really struggling right now, but behind Ryan Lang, he can get a little bit of air off of that damaged car, and that's helping him down the straights, but it's really starting to bottle up everyone behind Ryan Lang in 10th.
A little bit of a look from Suarez, down to the inside, deep on the brakes, but he catches the curb! Oh, and he catches the back of Forkold. That spins him out, and he gets the car going just before he gets caught by Stephen Jones, who is going to go around the outside.
That's the worst kind of situation. You can see it coming as you're the driver behind and in front. You know it's going to happen. You just have to try and hang on to those cars and make sure they do the best that they can. They go past the featured car there. We're going to take a look at Bell between Mukanos and Michael Houghton.
And I think Mukanos is going to successfully fend him off. Houghton, though, taking another look. Here's more traffic. That's going to be McGill and Rangel around the outside. Going to deny tracking out to both cars. That is such a sketchy move, but they managed to make it work, and no change in either battle.
Two dirty torque drivers right now. They're doing an excellent job battling it out here for this second position. They know they can't catch Justin Albrecht on pace, so they know that this is really the battle for second place or the lead if Albrecht gets into trouble. So they're going to duke it out between each other.
As they continue to stay close, we've got DTOs still fighting for second place as well. And Phil Lake's going to give a nice little tow to Trangerade and Olenek once again. I think Ole's just a little bit too far behind, though. Yeah, he's going to close in for sure.
Yeah, he's not going to catch him by the time they get to the carousel. And to be honest, this is not where Phil Lake wants to be. Phil probably wants to be right in the tail of Dennis Neidhart, but Dennis is 5 seconds ahead, and that's all because of that one incident that happened between Ove Trangerade and one of the lapping GTPs, so they're all way behind, and this gives opportunities to Rob Olenek and Ove Trangerade to save fuel in behind Phil Lake.
Going to Iati and Hansen. This is the number 12, fighting for 9th place. Excuse me, Johansson that we're watching, fighting with him. Going by, that is Kitty Engstrom, who's had some woes this race. Certainly not had the best of his around here. He'll leave them be out of the toe of the boots.
And next up to be passing them is Justin Albrecht. Well, rather that's John Keefe actually missed him because he's on the same lap as these two. So they're actually separating these battles. And this is what we talked about earlier, Joe, is these GTPs just get in there amongst the GTOs and start separating these battles out. And it ends up making it so that these guys who are, you know, Jake Johansson behind Fabio Iotti really can't make any passes.
Albrecht is going to go around the outside into the corner and go around the outside of all three of them. Nicely done. Back up to Suarez. We were watching this fight before. Warcup's still in it. Took a big dive down into the chute, but can't quite make it stick.
Now Warcup trying to go around the outside through the carousel and just got tracked down a little wide by Suarez. Suarez left him just enough room, just what would be legal in IndyCar or in F1, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful move from Suarez to put pressure on Warcup to push him out into the extent of the runoff there. But Warcup then taking a little bit too much brakes into the chute, losing that position.
Hate to jump us around, but the second place battle in GTOs is still very, very good. So Rob Olenek, who was up in second place briefly, actually I think he led this race for about a lap, is still looking to try and get these spots back. Phil Lake playing the defensive role. So we've got, looks like that is Kenny Engstrom now coming through. He's going to split Miller and Romero behind them. It's another battle you can see is forming a trio that is not split apart.
Yeah, Rob Olenek right in there behind Ove Trengrade. Ove actually sliding his tires through that tight left-hand corner that takes you out of the boot. And so he's going to lose. He lost a little bit of time to Phil Lake, so he's going to try and gain that back here in the final corner. But it really is, you got to figure out where that balance is between sliding the tires and gaining time, but also losing time to the tire wear. And in a big endurance race like this one, that effect can be very strong. But look at this. Ove Trengrade tracking out wide. Phil Lake on track, on pace. Rob Olenek in behind them. They're about evenly split now. But this, I think Trengrade might be just close enough to Phil Lake if he can get a good exit here. He almost hits the outside wall.
Did he actually hit it though? And there's a blown engine in front of them. That's Marco Mancini, who pulls off and out of the way of these drivers. Big run from Robbo just as we get the leader coming through. Oh, they're both going to have to brake hard. And who is that coming inside of them? That is Engstrom.
Kenny Engstrom, after his struggles, trying to regain his lap right now. But look at this, Rob Olenek going to the outside here through the chute. That usually doesn't work for the GTOs. And now we've got John Keefe once again on the same lap as these guys, trying to make it through. He's going to take away the outside line from Ove Trengrade, compromising his entry to the corner, but Rob Olenek can't get to the apex.
Still, he's going to get a great launch off the toe of the boot, and this actually might set himself up well. Trengrade not defending, and he doesn't need to. Robbo decides to back out of it.
Yeah, I've raced around here in the GTO a couple of times, and that's one of those moments where when you have that run and Ove Trengrade goes back to the outside, you dive to the inside on that moment and try and take that position, because he's not going to be able to turn in until much later down that chute down. Oh no, contact between the two of them as they get held up by Nick McConnell and Michael Houghton going through.
Well, there's the attempt. He's going to try and go the long way around to the final corner, but that's not going to work once again. That's Michael Haynes, who's a lap down. He's not in this fight. He's going to let them by. Nicely done there by the 45. So on to the front stretch once again. That closed things up very nicely for Lucanos and Houghton. And it looks like we got some stops for some of our major players in the Audis. Romero and Miller are both in.
Yeah, these two are battling with each other on track, so Romero and Miller are both in for their pit stops, and it looks like Reed Miller decided to take tires, so looks like it's not slowing them up that much to take tires. My predictions were wrong there. Must have been a rule change during one of our patches that we had this week, so these guys taking tires now. And we have a pass going on for third place in the GTOs between Ove Trengrade and Rob Olenek. Now Rob trying to go around the outside of the chute again. He's got a much better position this time, but they're being passed around. Krajcik and fourth in the GTBs. They're going to track out Rob Olenek with a great run and the inside of the next corner. Ove's going to back it out.
Gutsy move by Rob Olenek to get himself into third. That cost them a lot of time running side by side though, and Phil Lake is just miles ahead at this point. Gabriel Lanini gonna let them go. That's 5th place for Gabriel Lanini, by the way, starting from 9th. So he has done a good job of avoiding other people's problems to try and clamber up the order. Now, let's take a glance at our leader in the GTOs. Dennis Neidhart, 5.5 seconds up in front of Phil Lake. Is he going to pit this time? Nope, he's just going to have to stay to the outside because that is Laust Olsen sneaking through, who's fallen to 17th after his pit stop. A little bit of a long one, but not terribly long.
Phil's into the pits, Joe. Phil Lake and Juco Lascala both into the pits.
This is interesting. Now, I wonder, let's see if he takes tires. Yes, he does. So this must be a strategic call, especially considering he saw the other drivers pit.
Yeah, now I was going to say, Joe, that Dennis Neidhart and Phil Lake have very different driving styles and very different strategies. Phil is a much more conservative driver, so he takes less out of the tires. But Dennis Neidhart, if he can get new tires, that's going to be trouble for Phil Lake because of how far how far Dennis is ahead of Phil. But Phil, on these new tires, if he can have a really good outlap, a fast outlap, he can gain a lot of that time back to Dennis Neidhart with the undercut.
Yuka also took tires. Radar Anderson. So some of the GTP drivers also electing to cut this race in half. Scandinavian, let's see, is he taking tires? Because he hasn't gone up yet. Fabio Liatti fighting Albernanelli. And
Albernanelli missing a shift, Joe.
Oh, I was just going to say, he's very...
This is a chronic problem that you can have in the Audi GTO. We're going to hear it right here as he goes through the corner.
He's already offline. Look at how far outside he was. And wow, yes, that cost a whole bunch of time, unfortunately. Whew. Hope you haven't run out of breath yet, because we got half a race left to go.
Yeah, and that battle for second place in the GTOs, well, what is now second place in the GTOs, still has not separated. Rob Olenek and Obe Trangarade, and one of them's got to decide to pit here. No! Look at this. Obe Trangarade actually almost missing a shift there, losing a lot of time to Rob Olenek on the straight, but he's still 0.5 behind, so that's a good opportunity for him to try and make it back.
Let's keep the cameras on this, but an update on what happened with Lake's stop compared to the other drivers. He came out well ahead of Romero, but Lascala did not. He is behind Ernesto. So looks like Lake is clear, but Yuko's got some work to do. Reed Miller is at the tail of them and well far behind. That did not work out well for Reed.
Yeah, so it's math time to try and figure out how far back Phil Lake is and whether or not he can regain the lead off of Dennis Neidhart, because Dennis still has not hit at this point. Dennis, in the lead of the GTOs, has gone around 2 more times after Phil Lake having taken the pit stop, so he's probably losing time right now to Phil Lake on this last stop, on these laps with the fresh tires.
Meanwhile, we keep checking on this every once in a while. Suarez has been giving us a lot of fun, and now it's with Ryan Lang. This is for 8th place as we hop on board with Pablo. The number 25 continues to stalk him. Might get a good opportunity coming up because they've got some more lap traffic in the form of Michael Haynes up in front, along with Jake Johansson.
Yeah, and Suarez is going to find this very difficult to pass Ryan Lang unless he can use one of these lap cars as a pick, because he has some right rear aerodynamic damage on that GTP, which is going to be affecting his straight line speed and his cornering ability a little bit. So he's going to have to hope that one of these lap cars that they're going past is going to hold up Ryan Lang.
Trying to glance through and see what's going on strategically in this race. Radar Anderson, for those curious, is our highest hitter. And now we've got Olenek and Trangarade also in their stalls. So this is going to be important with Lake.
Yeah, I think Lake's going to have him. We're going to see right here, Phil Lake is just coming through the final corners now. They're about halfway done with their time on pit road. This is going to be interesting, Joe. It might not be...
Lake's being held up,
Phil
too.
might lose these positions.
Yeah, he got slowed down big time in the final corner, and he's going to get slowed up again because look at all the traffic that is trying to come through. But he is going to be ahead. He's going to get to that line well before those other two and avoid the danger of Swain and Forkolb, who eventually leave him alone. We got to go back to our GTP P2 battle. Lucanos and Houghton, 0.3 between them. They're coming up to, I think that's John Keefe. Yep, John Keefe going to pull off to the side, nicely timed.
Yeah, but Michael Houghton lost a lot of time because he was worried that John Keefe was going to come back to the line, so he's now 0.6 behind, and with how little these GTPs do draft, that's going to hold him up. But they're closing up on Pablo Rangel and Jim McGill, who are battling for 10th position in the GTOs, and this could actually separate this battle. This could close up this battle between Lucanos and Houghton.
Let's stick with this, but I can tell you that Martin Krejcik is our next pitter in the prototypes. He's down on the lane, and I don't think he's going to be overtaken by Anderson. He should easily get out ahead of him, so he will be our new highest hitter. Look at all this traffic that they are dealing with.
I can also report that Dennis Neidhart went around another time, so he's definitely going to the end of his fuel window in that GTO.
Any idea about how far you think they'll be able to go here?
It really depends on how much you're wheeling it out there. I've seen as long as 50 minutes in a GTO at this track, so I think with Neidhart, he could go as long as probably about 45, considering he's been in the lead and hasn't really had any drafts. We're taking a look at Jake Johansson, who's into the pits. Jerry Forkhold is also into the pits as well, and so quite a few drivers going into the pits right now, but I believe Dennis could probably go another 10 minutes if he wanted to.
We're taking a look at Neidhart on screen in the number 4. Gap is roughly 25 seconds or thereabouts ahead of Fabio, who is in second. But Yachty has not pitted, so he is not quite in the position where he will be come the end of the race unless we have something drastic happen. Still not been a bad race.
A little bit of front-end damage there, Joe, on Yachty, which definitely is slowing him up through the corners. He's having a hard time getting into the apex.
The Italian probably burning up those tires a little bit, how hard he's trying to drive it into there. Oh, and we had a big accident with Suarez and Lang. This is not far up the road from him. This is in the GTPs. There you can see them. Let's try and find the replay. This starts with Lang losing control at a turn 9.
And then it becomes the blender here. Take a look at this. This is just rough stuff between the two of them.
Prototype smoothie from 2 cars. Add lemon, and you got a mess.
Yeah, and I would be terrified to come up upon that. I mean, it's that's just rough stuff for them.
So they both naturally take themselves into the pits from that one. In fact, Suarez, I think, had to take a tow. So we come back to our leader in the prototypes, Justin Albrecht. I mentioned he took the first 2 wins of the season. Looks like he's going to try and make it a 3rd out of 4 here because it's 12 seconds back to Nick Lucanos right now. Justin is flying once again. This doesn't seem like anything can stop him this season. And with Fabian Gerber's early issues, he is not a factor.
Well, it seems, Joe, like the only thing that can stop Justin Albrecht any season is himself. It seems like it's just the little mistakes that happen that end up spinning him out or getting him into the wall, and those end up affecting his results. So if he can just stay clean and consistent, he's going to be very good, Brendan.
Down in 6th place in the GTOs. Lascella side by side, actually. And who is this coming up? I think that's Lanini. It is. Lanini gets around the outside, but this allows Reed Miller to close in, as well as Skella. Still side by side with Romero, now down into the chute. We've seen them try this before, but who's going to come out the winner? Lascella trying to get the launch. He does have the overlap that he needs, coming down into the toe of the boot, but he's got to seal the deal soon. Reed Miller's going to take advantage of this sooner rather than later if they keep this up.
Yeah, Reed actually being extremely cautious there, but they've got Tobias Gerber in the GTPs in 5th position. He's going to try and get by this. They're still side by side, but here it goes. Look at this. They're still side by side as they go through. Lascella and Romero very intent on having this battle continue, but finally they string out straight, and here comes Tobias Gerber to the inside.
That's Robbo. That's Robbo to the inside. What happened to him? Because that was Lanini off track as well. That's multiple positions that Rob Olenek goes down, and unfortunately it looks like Lanini turned in on him.
Yeah, we're going to see it right here. Gabriel Lanini coming through this really tight left-hander, turns, looks like Rabo's going for the apex, Lanini's going for the apex, they both meet in the middle, and Lanini, that's heartbreaking for Rabo.
Yeah, that 80s computer yellow car has to do a reboot, and looks like he thankfully didn't have hard contact, but it, again, that lost him positions that appear to be pretty difficult to try and make back. And Mukanos and Houghton are in as we watch this battle on screen, trying to get this way back, his way back past Romero. He is going to get it, but not from Miller.
Oh my gosh, and there goes Justin Albrecht just disappearing around the outside of these guys. Here comes Rob Olnick looking to the inside of Reed Miller. Reed Miller's going to leave him the room to do so here. Rob Olnick really trying to get those positions back as quickly as possible. Not a good exit for him, though. Is Romero going to look to the inside? No! Look at this! Rob trying to go around the outside of Reed Miller. He's going to lose that position to Romero, though, because he misses the apex, but Reed slow around the corner. This is going to hold him up. They might go 3 wide here.
Miller is savvy as always. Still Romero and Olenek trying to sort this one out. Deep on the brakes, maybe too deep. Very shallow into the corner for Ernesto.
Oh, no!
He's going to shove him off wide, and they both head into the wall. Oh, that is a shame it ended that way, as it was a great battle between them up till then.
Yeah, and both gentlemen had an opportunity to stop this from happening. Rabo could have backed out, and Lanini could have backed out as well. Both of them could have backed out of this, but instead, both of them are wrecked.
Well, an unstoppable force hit an immovable object, and that's the result. They both wind up in the wall. While this is happening, by the way, Justin Albrecht has taken his stop. He's running in third since Tobias Gerber and Gabriel Lanini are still going. And I did briefly say that Houghton and Mukanos have also taken their scheduled stops and are continuing on the track. 20 minutes left to go. We're still waiting on about 5 or 6 of our prototypes to take their scheduled fuel stop.
And Dennis Neidhart and Fabio Iati have not taken their stops either, so both of them have still yet to come into the pits. And Dennis Neidhart is losing time, not as much as I expected. Here we go. Dennis Neidhart looking to the inside here. Is he going to pit? Yes, he is.
Yep, he's pitting. So for reference, Phil Lake is now coming out of the toe of the boot, just as Neidhart hits the pit speed, coming down to his stall. Lake probably not going to catch him. If he does, he'll chop off a few tenths or a few seconds potentially. It depends on how good Neidhart is in his stop. As we now watch, is he taking tires on board?
He is, yes.
Okay, there we go. You know, Lake took tires.
Okay, so Neidhart out of his box, but he's slow on the pit lane, Joe.
Lake is just out of the final corner. I don't think, he's well out there. So Lake's not going to jump him. Let's see what the gap is once they get the timing and scoring up to date. Neidhart now up to pace as he climbs the hill. Lake off the first corner. I don't think he gained a whole lot. It's looking like it's about 5.5 seconds between them.
Yeah, so Lake not having the opportunity to gain as much time as he would have liked, probably due to that traffic that we talked about.
Looking once again at that battle between Houghton and Mukanos. They've not been able to get away from one another, and Mukanos is going to look to the inside. Down into the carousel. A lot of downforce produced by these machines. So how's this going to play out? Well, it's going to go to Mukanos, of course, as he just sends it in deep. Doesn't defend, though. Houghton, a little bit of a peek down into the chutes. And as they finally settle out, Mukanos is into P5, but what should effectively be second once we get 3 more cars ahead of them pitting.
We're on board with Michael Houghton right now, but yeah, that's one of those moments where you kind of are daring Michael Houghton to dive to the inside in that corner because he doesn't have the overlap, so it can be a really risky scenario for both drivers. And considering these two are teammates, that's not something that you want to deal with at the water cooler after the race. So my guess is Houghton, it was kind of a risk, but Nick Mukanos weighing that risk versus reward and decided that taking the apex was going to be better.
I love this shot. Our Dougie's been basically raiding some spy cam shops, and he's been rigging up the helmets as we see from the driver's perspective coming through the corners. You can, man, the cars bounce around so much despite the downforce in these things. It's kind of amazing that we don't see more spins at this track.
It's amazing they don't see more spins at many tracks. Michael Houghton going through these bumpy tracks, and here we go. Oh, he gets a little bit held up by Dennis Neidhart there.
Just the quick reaction times too, because they have to make those split-second decisions in the traffic, just hoping they're predicting correctly what the other classes are going to do, and that one came out well. In the meantime, an update on Fabian Gerber. He is a lap down, unfortunately, but he's gotten up to 13th place. Now, that's assuming he doesn't have to take another stop in his final 16 minutes, as the number 2 car we can see on screen has been hustling. I've been watching him make some aggressive moves in traffic, trying to make up this time.
Yeah, he's a long way back, and he's got a lot of work to do. We're going to take a look once again. Fabian Jungbluth is now getting caught by Nick McConos and Michael Houghton. So this is the battle we just left, and it's now become a 3-car battle for the next position up the ladder.
But Jungbluth has not stopped yet, as we got a little bit of a spinner ahead of them. I think it's Michael Haynes trying to let cars through. This could get dicey depending on what Haynes does in these last few corners. He's going to stay off to the outside. Nicely timed, so all 3 sneak by, and Jungbluth looks like he's headed into the pits. Yes, indeed, he pulls the car off to the right to motion, but this has set things off. Here comes Houghton, looking to the inside, defensive move from Mukanos.
Whoa!
Back as a blinking car comes back right at the wrong moments. Oh my goodness, that was a horrible surprise for Houghton.
Oh, the things you have to deal with in iRacing that you don't deal with on a real track. An appearing car right in the position where you're going to try and make a pass.
Oh, dear goodness. I thought that was a defensive move from Mukanos. Turned out he was just trying to get out of the way of the car that he knew was going to be there. Oh, that'll put your heart in your throat. And Lanini still is ahead of these two, and he is yet to pit, so that'll get him 2nd place soon enough, as we're down to 15 minutes left to go.
So Justin Albrecht has retaken the lead of the GTEs after all of the pit stops. Gabriel Lanini in 2nd. Then we see this battle, Nick McConos and Michael Houghton. Fabio Iati still has not hit in the Audi GTO. It's really impressive.
Now, Jungbluth is suddenly well down the order. Oh, he pitted. Excuse me. Both our director and I forgot that we saw Fabian head into pit lane, so that's why he's dropped down to 9th. He should be up to, I believe, about 7th or 6th place once we get Lanini and Schumann. A lot of stuff happening out on track. You mentioned even Fabio Iati has yet to pit, and he's leading this race by default, but he's going to hand that back soon.
Yeah, and he's going to hand back quite a few positions. I think he might drop all the way back down to 7th position once this is all over in Glen, just because of the nature of how long the pit stops take. Here he comes into the pits, though. Let's see whether or not he does fuel only, because at this point, that might be faster than taking tires.
Look at how far down. Oh! Did he hit his pit? Oh, no, he missed it. That's the dangers of being so far back in the pit lane, is I don't think he even realized that it was going to come that soon.
Well, no, you don't have an opportunity to look at your pit lane before you start the race, because you don't start from the pits here, and you don't assign pit stops. So no tires. Fabio Iati out of the pit box, a 15-second stop, which is not much slower than the other drivers who did take tires.
Olenek went by and should come out right about with Johansson. As we come back to our leader, Neidhart re-inherits it. Now here's what's interesting. Phil Lakes gained quite a bit. It's down to 3.7. Remember, it was 5.5 seconds. He's still not within attacking range. I'm not sure if this is traffic or if... You said Phil tends to be a little bit more conservative with his tires. I wonder if it's helped him out.
Well, Phil also tends to increase his aggression towards the end of this race, and he's got nobody between him and Dennis Neidhart. So this is really interesting. Now, here's the thing, though. Phil Lake only has about 6 or 7 more laps to go before the end of this race, so he's going to have to fly if he wants to catch up to Dennis.
So it looks like Gabriel Lanini is finally going to give up that 2nd place back to Mukanos. Houghton, by the way, has fallen off of Nick, so that battle for second is certainly not going on anymore. And you see Michael Houghton running in third. In fact, the battle might be for 8th place, I think, between Anderson and Jungbluth.
Yeah, Raider Anderson and Fabian Jungbluth are dealing with a lot of lap traffic right now, and Anderson is getting the short end of the stick here. Jungbluth on his climb back up ever since his pit stop is now in behind all this traffic. This is where things get really dicey as they go into turn one. Look at this, Bryce Kaluza almost turning in on Anderson there. Jungbluth taking advantage of this. He's going to have good momentum as they go through, and Trey Shutao might be giving a toe to Anderson now.
Just to make it even more complicated, here comes Phil Lake, who's going to be on the inside. Are we going to go 3 wide? Not quite. Well, maybe we will anyways, because here comes Jungbluth as they try and lap Radar Anderson, who's not really giving way. Now he finally breaks and lets them through way around the outside. Fabian Jungbluth rim riding through the carousel and cost some time.
Yeah, but here they come up on more lap traffic. This is Jim McGill and our leader in the GTOs, Dennis Neidhart. This could get very interesting for them because we know that Dennis doesn't like to give up the apexes, whereas Jim McGill does. Take a look at that. Jim McGill giving up that apex. That's going to slow up Anderson, actually, but here comes Jungbluth. We're going to go take a look at the back of Neidhart as these GTPs try and make it by.
Flashing his lights,
letting
him know he's going to come through, and Neidhart is also trying to lap traffic. How did they not touch? How in the world did they not touch? Did Neidhart intentionally time it that way?
Fabian Jungbluth was blinking Neidhart, telling him, I'm going to go through here, and Neidhart, as his custom, said, yeah, but I have a guy to pass, and went for it anyway. And Jungbluth, it was too late for him to brake any earlier. He had to brake when he did. It was just a miracle and fantastic driving from all of them that they didn't get together.
Oh my goodness. Neidhart, I guess pushing with traffic because he's trying to keep away from Lake. Behind him, the battle for what is the top 5 in the GTOs has Miller and Olenek involved there. They've got Laus Olsen, who's going to split them, at least temporarily, around the final corner. That compromises Robbo a little bit.
Yeah, Rob Olenek tends to be a very fast driver at the end of these runs, and Reed Miller tends to use up his tires a little bit. You can see him sliding through the first corner, going off track. Here's a good opportunity for Rob Olenek, but they got Justin Albrecht, the leader in the GTPs, coming through, and Reed Miller's going to go to the apex and block off Justin, who now has to go to the outside. Now they have Michael Haynes to deal with. Michael's going to go to the outside here, and here comes Rob Olenek around the outside of Reed Miller because of the slow up, but Reed Miller getting the toe from Michael Haynes.
Haynes stays as close to the inside as he can go and almost being forced into him, but eventually Rob gives space. Doesn't want to push him into the lapped car. Reed Miller with the inside line as John Keefe goes around the outside. Using that four-wheel drive, Rob Olenek is going to get it away. That's 5th place for him.
It's moments like that I love Kamel so much. The speed difference between these cars makes it so that you're in the middle of a 2-wide battle, and then you get John Keefe ripping around the outside of the carousel in a GTP, making it 3 wide for a moment, and everybody comes out the other side just fine.
Keefe, by the way, is running 18th. He's not been having a great race, and he's just coming out of this. Let's go to Jungbluth, who is still fighting with Radar Anderson after both of them having finished their pit stops. Can see the sun continuing to set here late in the day at Watkins Glen, but we've only got 10 minutes left to go, so it shouldn't get too dark.
Yeah, the GT. Here we go. Fabian Jungbluth looking to the inside of Anderson.
Great run. Jungbluth looks unstoppable. In fact, that is quite a bit more pace than Anderson has, and easily gets up into 7th on that backstretch.
And we have another battle between Patrick Martin and Stephen Warkup just behind these guys in the GTP. Stephen Warkup going to the outside of Patrick Martin down the long straight.
Got the inside does Patrick Martin, but it's not enough, so Warkup slips through. That's Pablo Rangel. And then this is Jerry Forkolb, who is lap traffic within their class. Ooh, he's holding him up slightly. That allows Martin to regain some of that ground. Now down to the toe of the boot, looking to the inside, motioning that he wants to lap him. And Warkup is able to get the apex away from Forkolb, but Forkolb just in an awkward spot off that corner.
And it looks like Martin's pace has diminished a little bit, so he's not really going to be able to battle Warkup, but he does take a very long plunge underneath Forecold there, but look at that. Stephen Workup just taking off into the distance.
Whew, tense moments here at the end. It never calms down in Kamel GT. 7 minutes left to go on the clock at this point. Neidhart seems to have responded well enough to Phil Lake. That gap is about 4.5 seconds and holding. So the Anvil looking for, I believe this will be win number 2. This will be, no, win number 3 for Dennis Neidhart if he wraps this up.
Going right by him right there was Justin Albrecht, our leader in the GTPs. He's got his own little bit of interesting moments right on board with him as he goes by Pablo Rangel. This is a good showing from him. He's almost 21 seconds ahead of Nicholas Mukanos at this point, so he can really easily coast it to the end.
So for anybody who thinks that this series is a crapshoot, this is an interesting stat for you. Top 3 in the race, Neidhart, Lake, La Scala. Here's your top 3 in the points right now. La Scala, Miller, Neidhart, and then the 4th is Lake. So the cream continues to rise to the top, and it's all about that traffic management. Looking at 12th place. Here's a driver we haven't mentioned all race long. Alcade being chased by Jim McGill, who we have watched in a little bit of lap traffic moments, but not in the battle yet.
Yeah, Jim McGill's actually had a couple of battles during this race with a couple of different drivers. He was battling with Pablo Rangel earlier on and Bryson Palooza just a couple of laps ago. And now he is trying to catch up to Alcade, who seems to have a good measure of this traffic. Whereas Jim McGill seems to be struggling to compensate with this traffic. The traffic could really cause a problem here. Here comes Alcade going to the outside there. It's going to compromise his speed. And Jim McGill now regaining all that time he lost due to John Keefe going by. But wow, Jim, way off of the apex. It's so hard to get down there in the GTO.
Up next in the line of GTPs is going to be Stephen Jones. He's the black and white prototype you see behind them. He looks a little bit more patient. He's not going to deny the racing line from Jim McGill, coming through the penultimate corner, and then just sneak underneath him out of the final turn. That's nicely done by Steven. We've also got a little bit of a battle brewing for 4th. Remember Olenek fighting with Miller? Well, he's left Miller quite a ways behind, and now, after his issues coming into turn 9 earlier in this race, Rob trying to regain some of that ground and working on Ove Trankerade for 4th. It's about a second between them as we ride on board with Norwegian.
Yeah, Rob Olenek trying to get up there, and there goes the lap car of Martin Krejcik, the lapping car of Martin Krejcik in 4th position in the GTPs. He's got quite a ways back to Tobias Gerber in 5th. But Rob Olenek trying to get up to Ove Trangrade, and it looks like he's got the measure of him through the corners, but it's on the straights where Rob Olenek seems to be making all of his progress.
Kind of surprising since he's got damage on that car.
Whoa. Joe, take a look at this. Nick Mukanos has lost a lot of time to Houghton. Houghton only 0.5 behind him. They've got a lot of traffic ahead to deal with.
That was 2 seconds a little bit earlier, maybe about 15 minutes ago. Oh, and this is really bad traffic. That's Rangel just trying to stay out of the way, but just because there's so many cars out there, he's got no place to go. Mukanos having to weave his way through quite literally. And Stephen Jones is up in front of them in their own class, which tends to prove more difficult trying to lap as they've got the leader in the GTOs as well. And look at him get held up.
Oh, it's going to be very close here. 3 wide off the corner. Dennis Neidhart just barely missing Nick Mukanos. But this is a good opportunity for Michael Houghton. Is he going to look to the inside here? Yes, he is. But he decides to back out of it at the last moment as Nick Mukanos takes the middle of the road, preventing any sort of real opportunity towards the inside of that corner. But Michael Houghton still very close to Nick Mukanos. And with the draft effect that they had going down this straight, this could be close enough if Michael Houghton could get a good launch off the S's.
I was going to say Houghton knows the game. He knows what Watkins Glen is all about. I think he backed out intentionally, and already a defensive move from Mukanos, getting back into that slipstream for one more tow. Back to the outside. Michael Houghton going to try and make the pass for 2nd place with less than 3 minutes left on the clock, but he doesn't have the momentum.
Oh, he's got to try something here. This is the opportunity. This is the chance you have. This is exactly when you want to be right up behind the guy. With 2.5 minutes to go here, They've got 2 laps maybe to fight this out.
And by the way, in all of this, we haven't mentioned Martin Krejcik has moved up to 4th. He may be 12 seconds behind, but if something dramatic happens between P2 and P3, we could see Martin Krejcik bump himself not just onto the podium, but into 2nd place.
And after all the trouble he's had, that would be a welcome addition to his arsenal of silver medals and gold medals that he's had in this series.
Yeah, there have been some wins from Martin way back when. It's just the competition has gotten so steep. Now, this has all been way behind a 2-lap to go marker for Justin Albrecht, who was way up the road. 26 seconds up the road, by the way. Now, Houghton's still about half a second behind. He's not close enough to attack into turn 1 this time, so he stays on that racing line. Is this too far back? That didn't look like a great exit.
I think it's a little bit too far back to make a move into the carousel this time by, but he's still well within striking distance, especially as we get closer to that white flag.
Now, what about Warcup here? And she's fighting with Martin for 9th place. Looks like about half a second splitting those as well, but we'll have to keep half an eye because they are having some traffic interrupting them. One of which just pulls out of the way and through turn 9.
Also have a good battle brewing between Ove Trengray and Rob Olenek. Rob Olenek closing in on Ove, and actually this is an opportunity. I don't think he's going to be close enough once again to get by before the carousel, but Rob's going to be in a good position when they get to that white flag lap.
Which I think is going to be next time by, because Albrecht just took the white flag now.
Fabio Iati having a moment.
Get back to that in a
Self-spin,
bit.
though, unfortunately.
Trengray and Olenek continue to close in on one another. Alcade just in front of them. I'll keep an eye on our leader, don't worry, as we keep this one on screen. Down to toe the boot. Look at how much those tires have worn out. So much sliding even off the corner. Look at how sideways that car goes, and he's definitely going to pay for it. Up to the hill, into the heel of the boot. Has to go defensive. Trangarade holding him off, but they're going to be wheel to wheel at least for a moment before eventually he has to get out of it.
Oh, that was one of those moments where if I was Trangarade, I would have tried to come across and block off Robbo, who's now on the inside. Now they're blocking up Fabian Jungluth and Radar Anderson, who are now going to be in a battle between each other for the 7th position. But Rob Olenek with the inside. Ove Trangarade trying to make it by on the outside. He's going to be able to make it work 3 wide into the final corner. Ove Trangarade with the power. He's going to be able to put it down and keep Rob Olenek behind.
Incredible fighting, and this is all for 4th place, mind you. Not even a podium, but it is a podium for Justin Albrecht as he comes through the penultimate turn. 26 seconds. He made a mistake early. He half spun. He collected the car, and he responded with aplomb. The number 1 car is going to finish P1 here today at Watkins Glen. And we've got to go to the battle for 2nd here in the prototypes. Yeah, this is still very close.
I don't think Houghton's going to have enough for him, though. Nick Makanos just needs 2 solid corners in order to retain this 2nd position. He's got 1 down. Houghton's pushing as hard as he can. Nick Makanos taking it easy through the final corner. He's got the position. 2nd place to Nick Makanos. 3rd to Michael Houghton.
Go back to Trangarade and Olenek because that's still going on right now. We'll call Neidhart when he gets close to the line. Oh, 2 wheels off. They are pushing the limits of these cars down around the outside. Olenek tries and tries, but nothing is working.
4-wheel slide from Ove Trangarade off the corner. That keeps Rob Olenek in striking distance. Ove Trangarade moving over to the right side to block. Rob Olenek's going to try it around the outside one more time. Is Trangarade going to have learned his lesson from last time and block him off in the corner? And he is almost...
We got to go to Neidhart because he is coming to the line. A win for the number 4, his 3rd of the season here at Watkins Glen. Let's go to that battle between Trangarade.
They were side by side as they went through the tight left-hander, but Rob Olenek managed to take that position away. Ove Trangarade looking to go around the outside of the final corner. He's going to dive it in late. Rob Olenek's going to make a little bit of contact, push him towards the outside. Well, he's going to make contact, and Rob Olenek's going to retain the position.
A knockout drag-down fight between the 2 of them. Let's take a look at that one more time. All for 4th place. between Rob Olenek and Ove Trangrade. I really don't think, I wouldn't say anything was done wrong by Olenek at the end there. Here he goes to side-by-side through turn 9.
No, that's just good fighting all the way to the end here. These two guys side by side the whole final lap. Fantastic battle between the two of them. Fantastic battle for the Audi GP.
Oh no, 17 incidents in the final corner for Rob Olenek. He's going to be penalized.
Yes, he is. He's now down to 6th position.
Unreal. Unreal. That means that Olenek is going to get the 4th place.
No,
Well-
Gregory got 4th.
Do you believe that the racing gods are just? All right, let's take it to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen we're going to have all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. This has been probably the most incredible season I think we've seen in the Kamel GT series. I know that sounds like hyperbole, but these have just been incredible race after incredible race, non-stop. And up at the top of it, it is Justin Albrecht with his 3rd win out of 4 this season. Nick Mukanos, he didn't quite make it back-to-back, but that was a hard-fought 2nd place for him, ahead of Michael Houghton, who took P3. Then you've got Martin Krajcik. I mentioned he had a chance for a podium, but that wasn't meant to be. Even still, I think he should be happy with that 4th. Tobias Gerber was the highest of the finishing Gerbers, but it was only 5th place, which is exactly where he qualified, so maybe not quite what he wanted. Gabriel Lanini took 6th place, and Fabian Jungbluth with 7th. Radar Anderson was P8, climbing from 13th. One better with Stephen Warkup going from 15th to 9th. Patrick Martin rounds out your top 10 with the last of the prototypes on the lead lap. Laust Olsen, not as good as the races we've seen from him recently, 11th, with Fabian Gerber. First lap wreck set the tone of the race. He only collected himself up to 12th. Stephen Jones was 13th. Jerry Forkolb was 14th. Carlos Fonseca 15th. And Johnny Bell 16th, with the last of the finishing prototypes being John Keefe in 17th.
Dennis Neidhart took the win in the GTO class with Philip Lake quite a few seconds behind him, unfortunately, towards the end of the race. Just could not gain those positions back. Juco Lascala, a very solid race from him. We didn't talk about it much during the race, but there he is finishing in the third position with the battle between Ove Trangerade and Rob Olenek, finishing with Ove Trangerade taking the position due to penalties from Rob Olenek. Reed Miller was able to slide past Rob because of those penalties as well and take that fifth position as well, with Rob Olenek down in the sixth position. Overall, with Jake Johansson coming home in 7th, ahead of Fabio Iati after Fabio's spin in the final lap, putting him in 8th position. Andrea Albertinelli comes home in 9th, with Mika Kivapuro in 10th position. Jim McGill in 11th, Pablo Rangel 12th, Bryce Palooza 13th, Miguel Alcalde in the 14th position, with Dominic Barreau in 15th.
From there on down, you get the drivers who ran into issues today. Quite a few of them, some of them collected to finish, some of them DNF'd. But we have second place with us, and though it wasn't as close as I'm sure he would have liked with Dennis at the end, Phil, you had a nice little fight there in the middle of the race with, what, about 5 cars to try and sort out second place? That had to be interesting.
Yeah, these races are always interesting because it's kind of comes down to the last stint. So it's all kind of about positioning yourself for the first part of the race, and I was quite happy sitting in third at the very start, and then unfortunately that GTP spun right in front of Rob, and that separated us from Dennis. It would have been really close at the end, I think, without that time loss. So that was a shame.
Yeah, and it did seem like you regained some time after the pit stops. There was a moment where it went down to about 2 seconds. Would you credit that more to tires or traffic that you were able to put a little bit more pressure on Dennis?
I only found out after the race that Dennis didn't take tires, so it was definitely the tires as why I was catching him, and I thought he was saving fuel actually when I was chasing him at the end there, but the traffic was just, I don't know, it was frustrating today. It was. This is quite an easy track for traffic. It's the moves are pretty obvious, but when they happen, it costs you a lot of time, and it was just it's difficult to chase someone down. When 2 Audis are close, I think people kind of respect the battle a little bit more. But when you're kind of having a long distance battle where you're trying to close a gap to somebody, people aren't as interested to give you the line. So it was frustrating.
Yeah, I have to imagine that can be a little bit harder to read. Well, regardless, second place is another little bit of points, and that will allow you to close in on those top 3 in the championship, which it seems it's been pretty tight with. How do you feel about going over to Mosport next week? Because that's going to be a much shorter lap.
Yeah, that one historically is bad for traffic as well. So we'll see. Hopefully I'm quick again. And a couple of trouble spots there with the turn 2, obviously. Moss and the last little sector is dangerous. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I can already hear the hesitance in the voice, unfortunately. That was Phil Lake, second place today. Looks like he's got some preparing to do when we head up to Canada. Up next, we've got third place finisher in the prototypes. Some great fights on screen here, and Adam's going to talk to Michael Houghton.
Yeah, Michael, you and Nick Bukanos gave us quite a show today. You guys were battling side by side for pretty much the entire race. Walk me through how it went from your perspective.
So Nick and I have always been talking about, getting into this epic battle because we seem to be very close on track, and it happened today. We were together for the whole 60 minutes from the get-go, and we both didn't make any mistakes, so that made it a lot harder for me to pass him. He was a better man today, but yeah, that was some crazy racing.
Yeah, and it looks like you you were side by side with him with about 3 or 4 laps to go going into the carousel, and just looked like you just had trouble hanging onto it around the outside there. How was the traffic though today for you guys?
Traffic was pretty good, especially with the more skilled drivers. They know what to do, where to position the car. But some of the slower guys or the newer guys in the series, they tend to move out of the way, which in turn gets into our racing line, which isn't good. So yeah, we need more of the new guys to kind of learn, to stay on the line and let us do the moving around.
Yeah, totally. That's that's one of the things that we used to talk about all the time back when I raced the series as well. So it's definitely a note to pass along to those GTO drivers. Well, Michael, it was great to see you battle with Nick up there. Is there anyone you want to thank today?
Just all the Dirty Torque guys. We finished 1, 2, 3 in the Nissan class, and yeah, that's a pretty good day for us. And thank you guys for continuing to do this. And well, what's missing? Yeah!
All right, Michael. Thanks for talking to us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. That was Michael Houghton, our third place finisher rather in the GTPs, and now we have Joe Peak, who's going to talk to John Keefe.
Yeah, John had a bit of a bad second lap, unfortunately. We saw your wreck involved with Lisa there at the start. What happened? Did you just miss your braking point, or were you caught out by her braking point?
It wasn't even her. There was I think there was 2 or 3 cars that were ahead of her. And actually that's the main reason I wanted to get in an interview here. I just really want to apologize to both her and Carlos Fonseca. Him and I had a very similar incident a few laps, or probably 20 laps down after that. But everyone seemed to just kind of check up a little bit right at the apex there, and with Lisa. And I was really going in there conservatively. I was just going to roll through the center there, and then everyone checked up, and that was that with me and Lisa there. So. I felt really terrible about that because I think she's ran a couple of races this season, and the last thing I want to do is hit someone that's new to the series. You never want to hit anybody, but you definitely don't want to hit someone that's coming in to try it out. So yeah, pretty much a disaster of a race for me, but it's Watkins Glen. It's my spiritual home, so I always enjoy running here.
Yeah, understandable. I did notice that incident you had with Isaac as well later. So it didn't seem like the greatest of days. Let's look forward then. Hopping across the border to Canada, it seemed like Phil was not really looking too much forward to it. Do you feel like you could maybe have a better day up at Mosport?
I always say this. I love the old bumpy tracks in this car. Mosport, I think I do fairly well there. So we'll see how it goes, I guess. But I always enjoy, those old bumpy tracks. I think they're perfect for this car. It just kind of makes the challenge even more, actually. So I enjoy that.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for you. Hopefully you find some redemption, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
That was John Keefe, 17th and last of the finishing prototypes today, sadly. But that's going to close us out with a big thank you to the Kamel Series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. I would have hated to have missed this one because this has been a lot of fun. But also a thank you goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast that you can see listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Milan, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen prior to get a hold of more of her great work. And also thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check us out on social media. Our Twitter is @GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storeenvy.com, or if you don't want to type it in, we got a link in the description below. But while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to our channel. Just click the big red button that says subscribe so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race, as we mentioned, just hopping across over to Canada, and that'll be at Mosport, Saturday, April 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar, including a brand new series. Get this, we're doing Jettas at Rallycross courses here in a couple hours, so make sure and tune into that one in just a minute's time. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.